I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my blog, where it is both my mission and my pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you and giving you a specific takeaway, all with the purpose of allowing your journey to be at least a little bit easier. Now, before I fully dive into everything, I would love to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and thank you if you already were. That truly does mean a lot to me, as I hope it does to you. So, let's get into it. It's been quite busy in the past couple of weeks since my last overall update. And it's analogous to that quote, I forget exactly how it is, but the idea that, sometimes 10 years can go by and nothing happens, and then, you can go through 1 week and essentially experience like 10 years worth of experiences. That's kind of what certainly last week has really felt like. So the big ticket items have been, number one, the shoot for my latest film's teaser. We did that this past Saturday on April 27th. That was a culmination of months of preparation, and we did it. Now, also as part of that was serendipitously that same week, my previous movie, the one that's completed, Finding Love in Bogota, formerly known as A Bogota Trip, released on Amazon. It may roll out into other streaming platforms and so forth, but this was the first one, and it was quite kind of serendipitous that, hey, the last movie I did and completed is out and available for people to watch. And at the same time, I'm in the throes of this new film and focusing on that. So I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. And then, of course, you have the mix of just life in general, meaning I imagine like most of us, our regular jobs that, put food on the table, as they say, and things of that nature. So all that was being juggled amongst this. But let me sort of break it down more or less chronologically and whatnot, and, parse out the lessons, if you will. So for months heading into this film shoot, we've been, planning everything around it, right? How we're going to shoot it, the shot list, casting for this specifically. And this essentially is just a proof of concept, a teaser to showcase, what the story is, what we're capable of, and all that, to convince financiers that, hey, this is a worthwhile project investing in. Let's go ahead and do that, right? So that is the intent of what we were working up to. And if you're unfamiliar, this new project for me, unlike my previous projects that were live action, this one's animated. So then you might be thinking, well, why a shoot? Well, it's analogous to how, in many ways, Avatar was shot, where they used actors and they used motion capture suits, and they filmed the movie that way, right? With the performances of the actors being captured. Now, we didn't use performance capture suits and things like that. We just shot it regularly, and then that gives the animators, which this is a 2D animated movie. A lot of people, when I say animated, they just automatically assume 3D animation, and I have nothing against 3D animation. I just love the old school hand-drawn feel, and so that's this movie, right? So we essentially wanted to shoot reference shots for them, with the actors' positioning, the composition of the camera, the movement, the body language, all that, and, have them be able to then animate off of that. So that was our goal, and the fun part is we don't have to worry about lighting, we don't have to worry about costuming or makeup. The only props that we really needed were just the things that they're interacting with, but in many ways it was pure make-believe. And I can't wait to share we did a rough teaser with just pulled clips in preparation of this teaser shoot. And then obviously now there's this like live action version of the teaser, and then there'll be the final product. And when this is all said and done, I can't wait to reveal kind of like the 1, 2, 3 step process of all of this, and just to see, the madness of like, what it started off as to what it became, right? Because it's really quite trippy in that way. You have to really imagine it, right? In that way to do so. But anyway, taking a step back, a lot of the preparation, as I said, was for this teaser shoot. It was, and part of that is also the animation side, right? Getting the character designs, getting backgrounds and so forth. So all that kind of was culminating to this, and not that all the character design and on the animation side needed to be done beforehand, but we were kind of working in parallel tracks, so that way when the teaser's done, they can fully go to town and have most of what they need to be able to animate this. But last week in particular, became about logistics, and making sure we had everything for this teaser specifically. So anything that wasn't as crucial, we put on pause. One of the things that got put on pause was John Comerford, who is part of the project. We've been revising the script for a couple of weeks. I said, I'm sure we could find the time and stuff like that, but let's not stress ourselves out. Let's just make this shoot the focus, and that's what we did. So, things have a way of not always working out. I think you have to be intentional. It's not just you can just sit back and just allow things to happen and somehow get done. But if you have a good momentum, aren't stressing, but also kind of can anticipate what's down the pipeline, things do get done. And it's funny, on Tuesday of last week, or was it Wednesday? It doesn't really matter ultimately. I think it actually may have been Wednesday. But anyway, the point being that one of the producers, Astoria, her and I had planned on meeting because we were going to do a walkthrough of the location that we're going to film in. We'd seen photos of it and we had a pretty good idea, but just to see it physically, you want that, right? And so we planned on doing that, and it was one of those things that hey, if we're already going to be together, might as well go over some of the other stuff. So we essentially made, not a full day of it, but quite a day of it where, we met up. Well, we took care of various errands initially, then went to the location, did all that, then came back and finished up the rest of what we needed to do. And I'm actually really grateful that we did this because, yes, of course, the location part was pertinent, but, in the not grand scale of things, this wasn't a crucial part of the project, but, I really wanted to, we had a small crew and cast, relatively speaking, although for me, it's the biggest one I've worked with. So we had about 20 people, mainly because of all the crowd work that we needed for certain shots. So, we had about 20 cast and crew, and I wanted everyone to feel special, right? I wanted this experience to be as enjoyable. I knew that, people would be coming out and doing this thing for me. And a lot of which, right, when you're talking about a teaser, we're talking about 2-second shots. So, they'd essentially be coming in just to be part of blink and go, right? And so I wanted them to know that I truly appreciated all that effort that they were going to put for obviously me, but also the team and so forth. So I had this idea, and I've been working on it for a couple weeks, just handwriting out thank you cards. And, I love doing it, but it's also each card, I really try to personalize. And so, 20 cards takes me quite a bit. I do put in effort into making sure that I write, the best message, right? And so I go through draft and things like that. But finally, I was at the tail end of, just 3 more cards to go. And it was great to just get that lift in the end of someone else coming in to help out. And mainly, Astoria, she wasn't helping me write the cards, but what we thought about was, I didn't want to just be like a card. I wanted to, create a mini gift basket. I knew we didn't have the budget for amazing stuff, but we went out and just, got these bags, got the tissue paper, we got some chocolates and, some, small candles and things like that, just to give it some presentation, right? Not saying like it's the thought that counts necessarily, but kind of in that way, and really the kicker was going to be the cards themselves. So, that's what we did, and thankfully I had her, because she really did the arts and crafts of it all, put these things together, and surprisingly, they took so much space. They weren't that big. They were just really small kind of paper bags, but still, they ended up, when you have like 20 of these things, they ended up taking up quite a significant amount of space. And obviously you can't just squish them together and so forth. So, that was kind of a funny thing. But truly grateful that, she came over and, we handled all that. We also did a preliminary like Costco run for, food supplies and stuff like that. Some stuff I knew I was going to get until like day of, meaning like coffee and ice and, fruit bowls, because we didn't want that to go bad beforehand, obviously. So, but the majority we got done, and it was good, because then it allowed me to really kind of prep and figure out the space for the car. And in fact, one of the things that I had to do, I was like, okay, between the camera gear and the rest of the stuff that I had to pick up, like Apple boxes, sandbags, and in particular these crash pads. We had to have 4 crash pads, not necessarily because, of how big they were, but they were just going to be spaced out. And so I couldn't use just one crash pad. Like, in theory, you can use one crash pad for a couple of people. But the problem was they weren't going to be close enough to be able to like all utilize one crash pad. So I needed 4 of them. So I had to go, account for those and stuff like that. So the storage space in my car was quickly running out. And so luckily I called my friend Khalil, who, was going to be part of the project. And I said, hey, can I drop off stuff, into your car, and you take some of the stuff? And he ended up taking the Apple boxes, which is great, and a couple of, food items. Our call times were different. Obviously mine is the first call time, being there. He was participating as an actor, so his call time was a little bit later. But it was like, okay, what's the stuff that we don't like need right away on set? And that's kind of what I put in my mind of what to give him versus what stays with me. So that was the thought process in that. But yeah, a lot of it was getting ahead. So knowing that like, hey, Friday is going to be my like absolute prep day to pack up, get all the rental stuff, because, you're not going to want to rent it earlier than that. I mean, if you could, you would, but that obviously incurs a cost. So, Friday was going to be my pickup day. The annoying part also too was that with the exception of the crash pads, I couldn't return the other stuff until Monday. So I had to count for also like not having a part of my Monday, for work. So a lot of it became before that Friday, how can I get ahead on as many things for work as I can, knowing that like essentially the weekend's going to be a wash because, Saturday I'm obviously doing that. Sunday, A, I'm going to be tired. B, just kind of doing cleanup and all that other stuff. So let me just get as far in advance as possible. And so before Friday, that's really what it came down to, right? To the extent that I can. Luckily with the stuff that I do, I can get ahead on work for the most part. Of course there's certain things that you're waiting on for people, like assets to come in order to be able to finalize X, Y, and Z. But to the extent that you can, like as much as possible, like if you're editing a podcast show, right? I had essentially everything edited that I could. If there's like an intro that I needed, okay, well, I would do what I could to be like, hey, I just wanted to know when you were planning on it, sending me it so I can, know how to properly adjust and so forth. So it ended up being relatively smooth in that way. There was one kind of a caveat where, there was a show that I was working on that wanted to switch an episode for the coming week, and essentially we were starting from scratch, and this was already Friday, so I was like, oh boy, okay, well, how the hell do I pull that off? But, you just kind of, it's like, okay, well, you find a way. So like basically Sunday into Monday, like very, very, very late Sunday, very early Monday, I essentially managed to get it done and stuff like that. So you find these ways of adjusting and fitting it into your time. And that's why, like, the more you can be prepped ahead of time, the more these kind of curveballs that come your way, you can deal with them, right? That's the idea. That's how I approached it. So, yeah, there was this whole side of it. Friday was the pickups, and I basically went every which way in LA. Like, I went north, I went east, and then I went to downtown, and then came back. Everything was just a little bit spread out in that way, but managed to get all the things done, in that way. Now, so kind of a few things also happening in this particular moment as I'm doing the rentals. Like, whenever I'm like what I call in the field, I don't mind being in the field, but it's always tough because because I'm not at home base, and I imagine it to like if I was James Bond, right? I could be in the field, but James Bond also has the people at HQ, helping him out and stuff like that, coordinating, blah, blah. I'm great at both, but obviously I can only be at one place at a time, and so it becomes very difficult to do stuff when I'm on the road, and yada, yada, yeah. Anyway, but, it had come up, so Astoria, she, before the shoot, had injured her knee to the point that she needed 5 stitches. And she couldn't really move her leg, otherwise the stitches would come out. So that was obviously an unexpected curveball. She is overall okay, but, she was in good spirits about the whole thing. But obviously an unexpected thing. But you just have to roll up your sleeves and deal with it. So, funny enough, I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can get, and the thought crossed a little bit later of like, let me see if I can work on a wheelchair. Now, over the weekend and stuff like that, and, a lot of places, they open up late, not late, but like at 10 a.m. Obviously our call time is at like 8 a.m. So, the earliest a wheelchair could be picked up is 10 a.m. and then you're potentially losing somebody to go pick that up. And by the time they come back, it's a whole thing. But so then I started thinking of like, who might actually have a wheelchair, and might even be coming. And then I zoned in on this one person. I was like, I bet you, I don't know if he has a wheelchair, but he might. So let me text him. And he did. And all of a sudden, boom, he was able to bring the wheelchair to the shoot, and that way Astoria didn't have to like walk around, and she could like rest, right? So she could rest in the wheelchair and still be mobile without putting pressure on that knee and so forth. So I was really proud that we were able to pull that off in such a short amount of time. And obviously, it's unfortunate for Astoria in that way, but we made it work. Now, what ended up being a really good call on my end was one of our producers, Brianna Phipps. She lives in New York. She's someone I've known for a number of years, really respect, and has been amazing on this project. And going into it, I always knew, you know what? I don't know. I always look at it, when you put in so much work, that being there for the shoot of it is kind of a reward in and of itself. I mean, obviously there's work and it's pressure and things like that, but I knew the people that were very much involved were both of our friends, so it'd be like a mini reunion. And, initially the thought was she would play certain roles, help fill out that side of it, and help produce, right? And, she could come out to LA where she hasn't been in a little bit and potentially see some, even though it was going to be a short trip, see some people, right? And just enjoy her time. So we had made that decision that she would, yes, come out to LA, at least certainly a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. And thankfully we did do that because, Astoria was initially going to be like the first AD of the whole thing and really keeping things moving. Hard to keep things moving when you're relatively mobile. And so Bree took over that role, and that meant, unfortunately, she couldn't play the roles that we initially wanted her to, but we found other people to fill the slots. And I felt bad about that part of it because, as an actor, I wanted to reward her in that way. But I'm very grateful that, she understood the assignment, as they say, and she really stepped up into that role. Ended up being good. Now, taking a kind of quick step back, so our shoot was Saturday. Bree was scheduled to come in Friday night. So I had done all the pickups and I packed everything that I could in advance. So we were essentially ready to go. And Bree, she was going to stay with me, in my place and whatnot. So that way she didn't have to rent a place or whatever, or, bother anybody else. So I was slated to pick her up that night, and because of my busy schedule, we didn't know. I wanted two of the actors in particular to meet in advance, who had very hefty roles. So Sarah Stratton, who's an actor that I've worked with for every project so far, she's also very much a producer on this. But into the shoot, I wanted her to really focus on the acting side. And then the nature of the story, there's a person she interacts with a lot, and I wanted them to essentially have chemistry. And so the thought was to have them meet, and not necessarily rehearse, but just a meet and greet before the shoot. Now, given their schedules, Sarah had been gone for most of April, and then same thing with Carla, the other person. In fact, Carla didn't get back until like Thursday night or maybe even Friday morning. So we knew that Friday was like the only day, and they asked me, can I make it? And I was like, listen, just let me know whatever time you guys pick. If I can make it, I can make it. But if not, you guys just have fun and get to know each other and whatnot. But it ended up working out well in that way, where it wasn't until 8 p.m. and it was actually in a location that worked to my advantage, where I could go there at 8 p.m. and meet with them, hang out for a bit, and then ditch and go pick up Brianna at the airport. And it was all kind of on the way, if you will. So that was really good. So I don't know, things have not a way of working out, but if you really do the legwork, like things can, and you see the opportunities, then they can come your way, right? As kind of evidence throughout this, like there's been setbacks, but we've made it work. And this was certainly one of those things that was just a straight pure chance opportunity, and it was great. And I'm really glad that they got to meet each other, and you could see like them already forming a friendship, and I think that paid off well in terms of the filming itself. So that was great to see. So amidst all this, as I've kind of mentioned, my last film, now called Finding Love in Bogota, came out on Amazon. And so I'm in this weird position where obviously I want to like let people know about it. And so, but at the same time, I don't have time because I've got to focus on this film shoot. As I've mentioned before, that I was prepping as much work stuff to get ahead of that so I could do the shoot. But I didn't want to not do something, and celebrate this big milestone that the movie, my second movie that me and the team made. We didn't promote it. So I had let the team know via email. I had let the people who help support our crowdfund for this movie, I notified them. And then I did a few social media posts. And what's been really fun to see is just kind of organically, it's starting to get out there. I mean, not like in a big way, but, because of the love and support that each of the people on the project has, those people have put together watch parties and things of that nature. And it's been really humbling to see that reception, Obviously, when we did the premiere back in 2002, that was a wonderful experience and so much goodwill there. But now the people that don't live in LA and haven't, been able to go to the film festivals, now it's out there for them, right? Like, it's just great that now the film is out there for everyone's enjoyment and they could check it out. And so it's just been wonderful. And, I tried to respond to as many kind messages as I could and things like that. And in time, maybe another week or two, like, the good news is the movie's going to be there, right? And so I can do kind of a more official push of it a little bit later, and it's not going to necessarily be lost or wasted in that way. But yeah, what a just high of emotions, right? Like, my last project, as well as the new, like, just the culmination, like, that same week. Does it mean anything ultimately? No, it's whatever you want it to mean. And for me, it's what a cool experience. Like, yeah, how serendipitous that this happened in such a way. It's not perfect because as I said, I'm having to like really define my time and stuff like that. But yeah, knowing that people are enjoying Finding Love in Bogota, it makes it all worth it, like, looking back on that experience, everyone gave their all, and they deserve the recognition and for people to see their work, right? And so I'm glad it's going the way that it is. So it's really cool. It's really cool. I'm really honored and grateful for all that, and can't wait to, for more people to see it. So it's really cool. Anyway, okay, so morning of shoot, I essentially wake up, and again, because, the shoot's on Saturday, I'm responding to some of these messages as well as getting prepped for the actual shoot. And the nice part is, because we planned it out so well, I really didn't need to feel stressed. Like, even with these last minute things, none of it was insurmountable. Even day of, there was an actor who had emailed us that they had to pull out. And I was like, okay, well, that's unfortunate, but it didn't derail us, and we made do, So we found a way, and really this was like the most fun shoot I've done in a while because of how freeing it was, and in large part, I think, because we didn't have to worry about all the lighting and this and that, and literally even in the frame, like, you could have the most random stuff, and it's like, it's okay, like, if it's in the frame, it doesn't ultimately matter, and continuity doesn't necessarily matter in terms of, like, if someone started off with a jacket in one shot and took it off for another, it's okay. not a big deal. So yeah, the fun part really was, it's a teaser, so, and it ended up having 33 scenes, meaning like different locations. Ultimately, it ends up being about 65 shots, as far as the teaser. And so what was fun and crazy, so we started off with this like one scene where they're on a yacht, and it's like, okay, you guys are on a yacht. All right, and then you shoot that for like 3-4 minutes, and then you're done, right? So it's like, okay, great. So in that scene, you guys were on a yacht. Now in this scene, you guys are in a monastery, and right, so like it's just complete like whiplash, but also like in a fun way, where you're just going from one thing to the next, and the whole idea of the shoot was, let's get all the crowd stuff done first and whittle it down to the more intimate, two people scenes, one person's scene, and so forth. So you're just kind of peeling away at things, right? And what was great about the early stuff was I could just say like, hey, here, this is the overall goal, this is the overall setting. And then the rest of my team, would help me out and create the specifics for each person of like, okay, hey, here's going to be your action, here's what you're doing, and yada, yada, yada. And then we would kind of see it in sync, and then maybe just make some adjustments and then film it. And our schedule is very ambitious, right? When we're talking about that many quote unquote scenes and that many shots, it can be very easy to start to have it go long. But for the most part, we kept on schedule. Like, we were pretty much always in schedule. And when I say schedule, like, a lot of our shots were like, okay, this shot, you're gonna have 7 minutes to do this whole thing, you're gonna have 6 minutes to do this one, 8 minutes to do this one. Like, it was a lot of that type of stuff. At one point, the most offhand we got behind by 11 minutes, but we managed to, it's not like we were like actively trying to like make it up. It just naturally happened, where by the time we were done with everything, we actually wrapped 40 minutes early. So it was just kind of like a byproduct. And that was the cool part. Like, nobody ever at any point, from my knowledge, really stressed about any of it. It just, it took the time that it needed to take, and it happened to take the time that we had allotted for it. And the times that we got behind, it was okay, because we knew that it was kind of all accounted for, and it didn't ultimately matter. We knew that, like, it's all good. If we get behind, we get behind, and not a big deal. And man, it was just so fun. I mean, because it's a teaser, right? All the emotions of it all are extremely heightened. Either you're really, really happy, you're really angry, there's some violent moments, there's so forth. And I always like to do at the end of a shoot people's highlights and lowlights. And it's funny because everyone's like, well, can I give like 20 highlights? And because so many people, like, because of the different setups, everyone just got to do so many things, and they were each, I don't know, everyone sort of enjoyed that side of it. There was one part where, there was a couple of parts where they had to fall down and stuff like that, and that's what we had the crash pads for. And one of them in particular was a fun one where they had to fall down, but then also convulse on the ground. And their convulsions were quite convincing, so we had to do a couple of takes. But lesson learned with crash pads, so we were filming outdoors in the sun, and when you're using black crash pads, they get hot. So lesson learned, we had to put down towels and stuff like that to allow people not to, like, essentially burn themselves. But for that particular show, we didn't end up doing it, but we were kind of like, okay, guys, I really need you to convulse, and if you can't, maybe we just take away the the towel, and then you guys will really convulse because so forth. And I joke about it, but obviously we didn't do that. They were able to pull it off and stuff like that. I mean, it's the amount of like both make believe and the fun with which everyone approached it was amazing. You know, we used these kind of squirt guns for the gunfight scenes and so forth, and yeah, everyone just gave it their all. And it was just a ton of fun, and you know, reviewing the footage was great. And this was also sort of not the first time, but the first time on my project that I worked with a DP, you know, recently. And so we had AJ Young, who had done my friend Jeff Graham's movie called Always Lola, which is amazing. And so that's how I got to know AJ. And yeah, I brought him on, and he delivered. And it was just, again, that's what kind of really made it less stressful, was knowing that I could really focus on the directing and working with the actors. And also, you know, my producers would come up to me and be like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think? So it just kept things moving where I was able to really, yes, divide my attention, but strategically divide my attention in such a way where I could answer everyone's questions and keep things moving. And then, yeah, everyone had the answers that they needed and they weren't panicked. So that was great. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just so many memories that I wish I could share, but some of it spoils some stuff. The two lowlights for me, I will admit, number one, we did not get a group photo. You know, we moved so efficiently and stuff like that, I mean, we had time for a group photo, but, you know, what I appreciate in my group is they're all about the work, and so we don't think about those things. But we did get at least great behind-the-scenes photos of us working, just unfortunately no like actual group photo. And then for me personally, as we were coming in, we were unloading on the day of. This was literally like at the top of the day, and my back kind of just started killing me. And I was like, oh crap. And so Bree, you know, was the one with me since we had driven in together. And I was like, hey, don't tell anybody. I know you got some Advil, so just keep the Advil coming throughout the day, and, you know, I'll make it. It'll be fine. And so nobody was any wiser until the wrap party. I was like, yeah, no, my back's been in pain this entire day. But they're like, wow, we wouldn't have known. But yeah, so, and you know, after lunchtime, we did around like 1 p.m. We then, that was after like a lot of the extras had left, so, you know, we had kind of down to the 5 cast members at their core, so we had them, and then that dwindled down to, you know, just Sarah and Carla and their scenes and so forth. So yeah, it was kind of just interesting to see this thing go from 20 people down to like a very small crew in the span of only a few hours. But man, you know, everyone did great, and it was such a joy. And we did, there's not a lot of talking in the teaser. I mean, we did get, for the people that spoke in the scenes, we did give them lavs for that, but then we also took them aside after they, quote unquote, wrapped to record just their dialogue specifically. Now with Sarah and Carla in particular, I wanted them to record together to have that immediate feedback from each other, even if they weren't going to be fully acting, but at least like in that moment they can, you know, support each other, and that really worked out well. I thought they did a phenomenal job together. And then, you know, we cleaned up. So yeah, we had shot at a house that at a friend's house, essentially, at their parents' house, and which we were grateful for. It was a beautiful house, gave us the space that we needed. And the one thing for me that I knew, I was like, I don't, and what I love about this crew, it's for the most part everyone that I've known for a number of years, and even the new people that I always end up working with have a very kind spirit and are kind of about this, where it was like, no, we want to leave it better than when we found it, right? That sort of mentality. And so everyone rolled up their sleeves, helped clean up, and then we could just, we had, maybe like 45 minutes before we had to go to our wrap party, right? I'll talk about that. We had reserved this bar, but I'll talk about that in a moment. Anyway, the point being that, we were all kind of huddled up and we're able to sort of enjoy and reflect and just chill. I brought this bottle of wine that I liked, that I found recently, and I only had one because literally the place that I got it from, it was like their last bottle. So I think we ended up splitting that bottle 14 ways, so not a lot of wine per person. But just the shared camaraderie of it all was really fun, and we got to sort of reminisce, and that was really sweet. I really appreciate that. And the kind of crazy part about all of it, as I was sort of going around kind of highlighting how I knew each person, it's kind of interesting how little I actually know how people feel about me, and also how much I guess I just don't care. I care in the sense like I care about them, and obviously we keep working together, and we also have a relationship, beyond just peers. And some people I'm very close with, others I don't get to see that much, and so forth. But we do have a relationship beyond just work, and yet I assume that they like me, but I don't know if they like me, right? Like it's kind of like a crazy thing to consider in that way. But because I don't, I think that's what makes it work, is because at the end I just try to really treat people nice and, have it be that way. And that's why the gift baskets and so forth, like that was really important to me, because I wanted people to know. And that's why I spent, weeks literally writing out the thank you cards, because I wanted them to know. And, the irony of ironies is, hard pressed about like what I wrote in any of those cards. I mean, I have a general sense of it, but I honestly could not recall what I wrote in X persons or Y persons and so forth, in any specific manner. So, if I ever see those cards, it's always like a fun surprise for me of like, oh yeah, oh wow, cool, I wrote that. That's, I still mean it, but wow, just kind of like total blank spot in many ways. And I don't know, I don't think it's a negative memory thing so much as I just, I try to do things from a pure hearted place, and by staying in the moment, you can do that and know that you can stand behind that, but then you kind of maintain that level of being in the present moment of the new thing, right? And that's why part of why I do any episodes that I do is to help capture some of these experiences, these thoughts. Otherwise, who knows? Yes, I believe in journaling and so forth, but, in a way, this is easier and more fun for me because, regardless of how many people listen to it, at least it's out there for people's benefit beyond just like me journaling in my own thing. So, but yeah, that was kind of that. It was funny too. So Carla had brought her cousin, and she had asked, obviously if she could bring her cousin, who's from Mexico, so she only spoke Spanish. And the funny part was, I knew that we were going to utilize her, right? So this goes back to the idea of preparation. I knew we were going to utilize her for some of the crowd stuff. So I essentially made my own Spanish cheat sheet where I wrote out directions I would give her of like, hey, now you're on a subway train, now you're on a yacht, now you're on this, and this is what you're doing. So I could like convey that to her, or if I like couldn't say, well, I could just have someone point to the piece of paper and say it. So yeah, when it comes to producing, it's all about just anticipation of what could go wrong, what you might need, and when problems arise, just finding a way to solve for them. That's really what producing is. And I think a lot of people stress out when things go wrong, whereas like if you're just amenable, you find that, and it doesn't have to derail you. So I'm very proud of that. And it was funny because of that little cheat sheet, some people actually did think like that I spoke Spanish or whatever. So it was funny. And then we had the wrap party. In terms of our budget and things of that nature, definitely, ended up being around like $600 for about 14 people. It's not terrible. Like that came with food and one drink per person. We got drink tickets, and we had kind of pre-selected a menu of sandwiches and skewers and sliders and yada yada. But it was important to me, like I said, these moments come few and far between. I knew this was just a one-day shoot, and I knew that it would be something special, and that was reaffirmed in even more ways than I could ever imagine. Like life can be pretty hard, and especially when, like, listen, I'm not going to put all of us on a pedestal, but at the same time, I do think art does matter, right? Certainly, like, my mom's a nurse, and that's very important, so are doctors, and, we're all important. To say, like, one profession matters over the other, I think gets perverse, because, who's to say, like, that a doctor, after a hard day's worth of work, surgery, doesn't want to just come home and relax and watch something, mindless or whatever it is. And I'm not saying, again, I don't want to overconflate what any of us does, but also I don't want to diminish. But where I'm going with this ultimately is that, the entertainment business in the past couple of years has gone through many changes, with the pandemic, with the strikes, what can happen with AI and things like that. It's just kind of, it's brutal, especially living in LA. LA is a very expensive city, so it can be very demoralizing. And so I understand the release valve days like this can have, and be the uplift that someone needs. So I do like to, provide that. And it was great that everyone felt that goodwill and the amount of preparation that we put into this to make it a smooth shoot, to make it an enjoyable shoot, a safe shoot, and really allow for people to do maybe not their best work, but something a little bit different, certainly something they can be proud of. And so at the cost of, okay, yes, it's $600 for the wrap party. It's quite a bit of money, but it was important to me to celebrate that and to honor that. Just people really felt that, and I'm glad. And I think if I worry about anything, it's the day after. Because you go from such an ultra high back to your normal day-to-day routine. And that can be tough. It can be tough. In fact, I'm very grateful that Bree was here. She just left on Monday. So, she was here for Sunday and then Monday, and she flew out Monday night. And I was very grateful because, when you have to, like, on my end, clean up the place, unpack everything, do rental returns and stuff like that. After, such a high experience, and also that can make you tired and stuff like that, it's not that it's demoralizing, but it's just a whiplash of it all. And there is a chance of slipping into, I don't know, slight depression, right? To go from something that's that joyous to then just the mundane does have an effect on you. And, I know for me, like, yeah, I'm grateful to Bree because, there's, in a way, she was like a safety net, right? But I also wonder about, some of the other people. And, I know they'll ultimately be fine and stuff like that. Of course, like they're very resilient people and so forth. But I think it's the side that people don't talk about in the artistic journey enough. Because those moments are few and far between. Going back to Finding Love in Bogota, like I'm very excited for it to be out. But it's still a detached sort of feeling, and where, any messages that come in, they're greatly appreciated and well received. But it's a blink, and you still have to kind of do what you have to do. The sort of moment that you, let's say, live for is the premiere, and that side of it where it's much more direct, in person. You get to see and celebrate with the cast and the crew. But it's one night or, potentially a week or two, depending on, the movie promotion, and then it's done, we have to kind of celebrate those moments when they come, and also learn to appreciate the in-between, because without it, it can be really tough. But, yeah, I'm truly grateful, and it's a long journey to where we're going. And I joke with the team, like, when this movie is done and we're at the premiere, I think I will break down in tears, because I will be truly joyful of. Every movie that I've done has taken everything out of me and required everything of me and the team. But this one is far and above beyond. And we're doing it with grace and passion, and it's been really, really fun, and to pull off what we're pulling off in many ways is a miracle. I think a lot of movies that get made are quite a miracle, regardless of the end product. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really proud, and I can't wait for the journey to continue. Yesterday, meaning on Monday, I was able to get what I needed to get done, and then, had some downtime. And since Bree was here, I was like, all right, well, why don't we put this thing together? Just, obviously it won't be the complete thing, but let's just place the shots. And it was really easy, right? Like, everything was storyboarded. For the most part, I knew which takes were the good ones, and so you can kind of go through and boom, place everything, and it gave us a roadmap. We watched it. It's about like three minutes, which is longer than what we want, but also, I wasn't really trimming each shot to their like actual thing. It was just more like, let's again place everything shot by shot, and it was fun. Like, without even the voiceover and the music, like, as rough as it was, we could see where it was going. And that was fun, and I'm glad that we got to share that, and that she could see the culmination of all of this sort of in the moment. So that's my big task for this week, is really to polish that and get it to picture lock, right? And, knock on wood, shouldn't be that difficult. It's just kind of trimming and stuff like that. And funnily enough, some shots probably will be cut just to bring it down in length a little bit. But because you don't need certain things, and it'll be interesting. And then we've also, as part of that, I am starting to this week have meetings with the animation team about the 3D backgrounds and stuff like that. So yeah, very exciting next steps of everything. But yeah, just so many good memories. And I'm truly grateful for everything. Like, it's it's a big confluence of the shoot that we did, the culmination of everyone's hard work, the people that came in to help, elevate what we'd already, built for them to be able to shine. And then also with Finding Love in Bogota, I'm just elated, and I'd like to figure out a way to put it into words. But as the poem goes from, this was a poem from Boy Meets World, although I think Ryder Strong himself actually wrote it, where I'm paraphrasing, where, even if you were to capture this elation in your mind's eye, at best you would know nothing of what you bring to me, or something like that. And so, as much as I've gone on and kind of explained these various things, it was just a true joy, and there's really no real way to explain that. And it's nice to see that feeling reflected in others people's faces as they experienced it too. So I'm very, very thankful. And if nothing else, these things are hard. I'm not gonna lie, and I hope, even if you don't watch every vlog that I put out, like, if you just look at the sheer number of them and go back to, the first time I talked about this project, The Arbiters, like, at this point, it's kind of been 2 years, realistically, since I've, started certainly thinking about it. And this is the culmination of that, right? So 2 years worth of just hardcore preparation just to get to this point. So it does take time, and that's what makes it so truly special. So just keep chipping away at it, and just keep making progress in the ways that you can. And I think it can come together. It's difficult. It's not always glamorous, but it can be glamorous if you embrace all of it, and make it glamorous. I don't know. That's what I got for you. I truly thank you. And if you've ever, purchased any of my books, whether the fiction one, the nonfiction one, or seen any of my 2 movies that are out, or supported any project of mine, from the bottom of my heart, I truly, truly thank you. Because, yeah, you are the sail you are the wind in the sail, as they say. Or even just by watching, these episodes and supporting me on YouTube or listening to the podcast, it all means something, right? It's not lost on me regardless of the quantity. Because to me, it's never about the quantity. It throws a lot of people off, but I never honestly care about that. To me, the magic is in just doing it and having it reverberate with the people that it does. And that's it. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. See you next time.